This is Dave at TitleSearch.com. You get a lot of questions about commercial properties and what are the considerations in running a title search on a commercial property. In theory, a commercial property title search would run exactly the same way as a residential property. The records are generally in the same location, and the logic behind running a search is the same, right? It's books and records. You go into the same deed books, go through the stacks, pull out the files, and you run a search. However, on a commercial property, there's some details which make it more complex. In fact, less than 10% of property title searchers run commercial properties. If you researched and polled 1,000 title abstractors nationwide, you'd find that less than 100 would actually do commercial properties. Most don't want to do it, and here's the reason why. One of the complexities is in name variations. Commercial properties are very often owned by corporations rather than individuals. That being the case, a corporation might be called XYZ Corp. Or XYZ Corporation. When the records are indexed in the land records, there may be some records that say XYZ Corp. Period. Some might say XYZ Corporation written out. Some might say XYZ Inc. with a period. Some might say X period, Y period, Z period. Now when you type those in, or you look in deed books, or you look in index files in the land records, each one of those recordings will be in a different location. X.Y.Z will not be right next to XYZ. What about X space Y space Z? So this is just one example of where a commercial property title search is going to be much more complex than a residential. Here's another example. A commercial property is much more likely to have UCC filings, or Universal Commercial Code filings, where a business at a location will have a claimant or a debt owed to an individual or company, and they will use a UCC filing to record their interest in property. A commercial piece of real estate may also have partnership interests. If it's owned by a general partnership, there may be 4 or 5 or 6 different partners that have ownership in that property through a general partnership agreement. Now, if a judgment or a claim goes against any one of those partners, it may affect the property. So each one of those partners' judgments and liens may have their liens accrue to the property. That's another complication of a commercial title search. A lot of times on commercial properties there are assumable loans from a prior owner or from another partner. Business liens against a corporation are something which show up on a commercial property that do not show on a residential property. A tenant in a property may have a contractor that puts a lien against that tenant, not even the owner, that may somehow affect the property. Even if that property was previously used for commercial use and is currently a residential or owned by an individual, it may make the search process much more complicated. Pricing on a commercial property has a great deal of variation. For example, if a small little building, let's say Joe's Coffee Shop, has a little storefront on the corner somewhere, that title search is going to be very similar to a residential versus doing a title search on the Empire State Building, which may have many ownership interests, may have many different segments of the building with different partnerships. As an example, a shopping mall. You may drive by shopping malls and visit them every day. You're going to notice the mall has one structure. There may be outparcels in buildings that have other structures. They all may have the same address, right? The Applebee's restaurant that's out on the corner and the bank that's on the opposite corner may share the address with the shopping mall, but each one is a separate parcel. In fact, you'll find that the parking lots of a shopping mall may be separate legal parcels than the actual mall. Taking it a step further, each of the anchor tenants, if there's a Macy's at one end of the mall and a, let's say, Saks Fifth Avenue at the other end of the mall, they may be separate legal parcels even though they share the same address. So the bottom line is that a commercial property title search needs to be considered very carefully. In some cases, people will want to try to do their own searching, maybe on residential properties. That may not be recommended by itself, but especially on a commercial property, you want to find a title abstractor or title examiner who is qualified to do this type of research. A certified title abstractor would certainly fit that bill, but somebody who has experience and the knowledge of how to search commercial properties and look at these variations. And I've given you a few examples, but there are many other examples of where a commercial property is much more complex than a residential. If the results of that title search are important to you at all, and they are going to make a difference in consequences of taking an interest in a property or not, be sure that your title search on a commercial property is done correctly. It's done by somebody who knows all these details, and there are dozens of other examples of where a commercial or business property is more complicated than residential. If you have other questions about commercial properties or any aspect of title searching, you can reach us through our website, titlesearch.com, and we can describe what the advantages or disadvantages of different types of searches might be on a commercial property. Or if you have one, call us up, give us the address, and we can tell you what we can do to help you get the answers you need on that property.